a slightly sort of flatter hairline, as you can see around the sides. It's generally flatter, and on that side as well. Yes guys, different hair system hairlines. Which one is best for you? Which is the most realistic? Which gives the most subtle look? We're going to be discussing this in today's video. Before I crack on, just wanted to remind you that these videos are sponsored by Vivid Hair Systems. This is a Vivid hair system. It's a French lace. I did a video on it actually just last week, so you want to check that out, have a look, see what you'll be getting with these particular systems. 15% off, Adam15 in the coupon code box below on levividhair.com, so don't forget it. Right, so hairlines. This isn't always something that's bothered me so much personally, maybe because I've been wearing systems for a while, but I do get a lot of questions about it, and I understand where people are coming from, because in the very early days of me wearing systems, I was very, very obsessed with how my hairline looked, because I did actually have my hair up a lot of the time and I put a lot of product in it, and I wanted to make it look as invisible as possible. So I think the most important thing to consider when we're talking about hairlines and hair systems is it needs to be age appropriate. Okay, so if you're someone that's in your 20s or in your 30s like me, you're probably going to want a fuller hairline, because that's generally in line with people who are your age, right? As you sort of get into your 40s and your 50s and beyond, that's when you might start considering going a bit more receded around the sides. You might want to start considering going thinner on top and that kind of thing. The fantastic thing about hairlines is, or the fantastic thing about hair systems is, that you can actually do that. The hair systems are catered for all ages. You can go thinner if you want, you can go thicker if you want, you can go fuller if you want, or you can go more receded if you want. And it's pretty easy to do so. So for instance, with my current system, guys who already subscribe to my channel, you probably remember that my last system was a bit more receded. I probably went a bit too receded with that one, so I've gone with a slightly flatter, not completely flat, but a slightly sort of flatter hairline, as you can see around the sides. It's generally flatter, and on that side as well. I'll get close to the camera so you can see it. And also, because my actual bio hair sort of grows to around there, what we do, what I get my stylist to do, is just kind of cut it fairly flat along the front, and then it sort of goes in a little bit. So don't worry if you see that on your hair system. That's normal, because it has to facilitate room for your bio hair to sort of grow. The other option, of course, is basically getting your stylist to shave really quite far down. If you want a really flat hairline, if you're in your 20s or your 30s, you want to make sure your stylist or barber is sort of cutting your bio hair, your natural hair, down to, I suppose, pretty low, because if you want it sort of flat all the way around, the bio hair needs to be cut, you know, really quite low on the sides. I think my gap is about 6 inches from side to side. So the balding patch, or the bald patch where the bio hair is not, it's about 6 inches. But with a standard stock, you can go up to 8 inches from side to side. Now, the reason I don't do that is because I can find it a little bit itchy when the bio hair starts growing through again. On these sides, there's no real recession with the bio hair, so it does grow through quite quickly. It grows through quite thick, and as a result, there can be a little bit of friction on the system and it can get a little bit itchy. So I try and get away with the smallest amount possible of sort of bald spot on the top of my head. Now, for you gentlemen who might be 40 or above, or 50 or over, that's when I would really, really recommend you seriously start considering adopting a widow's peak with each system that you get. Now, obviously you can do this with a stock system. It usually requires your stylist to actually cut a bit deeper into the system before they actually apply it to your scalp. If you want to do that yourself, that is an option as well. I promise I will be doing a video on actually cutting the base. I haven't done that yet, I just haven't got around to it, but I know that it's going to be a really useful video. And in terms of like actually making a widow's peak, that kind of video could be super, super useful in terms of, you know, gaining that sort of more sort of slightly older, more sort of established, you know, middle-aged look. So I will be including that when I do make that video on cutting the base. But another option for you guys is getting a custom system. Now, custom systems are basically where you have your system tailor-made to your exact requirements. So you designate what density you want, you designate what exact color you want, you designate what shape of the base that you want, and that's where you can implement a widow's peak, or you can get them to sort of do a lighter density at the front and maybe a thicker density at the back. So as we age as human beings, as males, generally, not always, but in about 80% of people, in 80% of men, they do see some level of recession on their scalp, and usually it starts from the front. You start thinning on the sides. Guys who've lost their hair or are losing their hair, you will know what I'm talking about because you are going through this right now. But yeah, it does tend to start around there. Sometimes it starts as well at the front. Less often you will get guys who sort of get like thinning around the crown and they keep their density at the front. That's more unusual. Interestingly, my dad had that. It's not something I ever got. My dad did have that, and it was quite unusual. It's sort of like a sort of friar's sort of bald patch in the middle. If you do have that, there are hair patches that you can get as well, so that is not an issue you should be worrying about. But yeah, if you do go for the custom, you will be looking to get something slightly thinner at the front more often than not. So for instance, let's say a normal young person's head of hair would equate roughly to about a 105% density in hair system terms. Mine's 105% density, this one on my head right now. So this is a normal, healthy density, I'd say. However, if you're moving to the 40s, the 50s and the 60s, you're going to want to be looking to get that density down, okay? You're going to be wanting to start approaching sort of like an 80%, then a 70%, then a 60%. Obviously, you don't have to. I wouldn't go, if you're sort of in your late 40s, 50s, I wouldn't go above an 80%. And I'd probably start thinking about having a widow's peak, a receded hairline. Obviously, you don't have to do that, but I'm looking at it in terms of realism. And if you want the most realistic look that's age appropriate, that's personally what I'd recommend. So in summary, I think if you're in your 20s to your 30s, you can very, very much get away with a fairly flat hairline. Not too flat, I think it might look a bit unrealistic. Of course, if your stylist does cut it too flat, that's not the end of the world. You can use a blade or you can use some scissors to just cut it back a little bit to whatever sort of recession you're looking for. So that is not the end of the world. I think when you're getting to your 40s and definitely your 50s and your 60s, you want to start thinking about getting somewhat of a widow's peak there, but also you might want to start considering getting custom systems. Now, Levivid do custom systems, so you can check out their website. Unfortunately, the discount code doesn't work on custom systems, but they still do good custom systems. I've used one before, I was very impressed with it. It takes about 8 weeks to arrive to your door, but I really think it could be a game changer for people in their 50s and their 60s who are looking for more of a tailored look, something a bit lighter and something with maybe some recession. Of course, one last thing to consider as well, especially for gentlemen watching this who might be in their 40s plus, consider getting some greys when you order your next system. Again, customs are really quite good for this because you can basically stipulate what percentage of grey you want. But as you get older, we do tend to lose that pigment in our hair more often than not. It's something I'm even starting to think about, even though I've still got good colour in my hair, that at some point I'm going to need to start considering getting some greys in there just to make it look realistic and to match up with my natural hair on the side, maybe my beard hair if I grow that out. This is a really important consideration that we don't really talk much about in the hair system community. It's important to get it right. So always important to consider greys as well if you're getting older to match that or to get the most natural look possible. I hope you found that helpful, guys. What kind of hairline are you going for at the moment? What's your age as well? Do you feel that if you're in your 20s or your 30s, a sort of flat hairline is appropriate? Going up to your 40s and 50s, are you thinking that far ahead? Are you thinking, I might need to implement some greys, maybe a bit more of a receded hairline? It'd be really good to hear your guys' thoughts. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button as well, helps more people find the videos, and I'll speak to you very soon, guys. Bye for now.